And I am, oh, do you mind holding it there? Just fixing that. And we are recording, and it's a beautiful morning and a morning of hope and good news amidst a pretty crazy world.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate to have with us Robyn Nietart, who started, gosh, she'll tell you how long ago the partnership, well, she is a testimonial to the power of faith and hope and life. And we just are very fortunate because she's always on the go, and you'll hear more about that soon. This is a project that is a model. It's a global model for interrelationships, for faith, for hope, and the world. And I don't want to go on too long because Robyn's message is so clear. But we really appreciate the time and the effort that she's made to be with us today. And I will say that she has a bit of a presentation to bring us up to date. This is a project that continues to expand and become more and more successful. And so we want to hear the latest and see some of the folks in the story. And then we'll have some time for questions and answer. We want to encourage everyone to participate during that session. If there's a real problem, let us know, and I'll let you know, but in the middle of the presentation. But we do welcome your participation and questions, and you'll have time for that. So aside from that, Robyn, here we go.
Thanks, Carol. And thanks everybody for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. Carol's thanking me, but I need to thank you all just for a chance to talk more about WMI. So I put together some slides, old slides, new slides, so you could see what's going on. It's way better to look at pictures of the women and what's going on in the loan program on the ground than me. So Carol's gonna put up the first slide.
So give me just a minute. All right.
Hey, James.
Okay. Well, you know what?
The advantage of me not changing my clocks is that I got here.
All right.
Adult ed.
Well, I'm glad it worked out that way.
Well, we practiced before you guys got on. We actually practiced.
Yeah, we practiced and it was coming on. Okay, well, let's see this. Gina, if you do gallery.
I'm sure.
Change all of your clocks.
Yeah.
In our house, you go around, clock on the stove, clock on, everything has a clock. So some of them change automatically, but not so.
Well, I realized it when I got in my car and it said 8:30.
Yes,
yes, but
My car is that smart.
yeah, you might have to do it.
Gosh, can we try this
Wait.
again?
That one you should allow her to share.
No, it should work because I'm a co-host.
Oh, you're,
And I
you're a
tried it and it
co-host
was
and it should
working
work.
earlier.
Yeah.
Robyn, where are you?
I'm at home.
Oh,
Yeah.
We actually had it up before you all joined.
No, you
Well,
don't want-
Carol had it up on the
No,
screen.
you don't want that screen to share.
Yeah, yeah.
No, hold on. I don't know why.
Is it, what are you on? See, you have to choose from here.
No, go on up to gallery view, maybe that'll work. Hold on.
You
just a
know, this
minute.
gallery is just gonna show.
Yeah, it's gonna go
Participants.
so you gotta go share you would have to do.
I'm on share screen, so. Hold on. It was,
Carol, you have to click the screen to and click share. We don't see anything being shared.
okay,
Yeah, so go ahead.
where do I, oh, there, share.
Yeah.
There. To.
Click share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you doing it there or you want me to do it here?
No, here.
Oh, I see.
No, but that's, you're in the PowerPoint. You need to go back into the Zoom and share your screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
from the bottom.
Let's go to Zoom. All right, hold on.
No, she's going to Zoom. Where you say share.
Okay, now, yeah. Now
She
try
has to
it.
make it bigger so she can.
Where-
Understand what you can.
Well.
How-
They're not.
Oh.
I do too.
I've done that.
Sit back to the side or something.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yay.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your patience always. So, here we go.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
So I always start that picture so you can see the faces just of women who are in the loan program. The dignity and the beauty of working in villages is really stunning. It's just stunning. So Carol, if you go to the next slide,
Here we go.
WMI started in 2008 with 6 of my colleagues. As many of you know, I was a telecommunications attorney and I was in the cellular business, and then I sold some cellular systems, quit, and decided to do something for other women in business. And there you will see in the very front, starring June Kaikobi. And I talked to June about what could we do for other women who have no access to opportunities to start businesses. And she, of course, talked to her mom, Edith Mafabi, and we were working on building that maize mill. As maybe some of you remember, this is like 20 years ago in Byobo, Uganda. The church funded it, and I did a little bit of legal work for it. And June said, well, why don't we talk to Olive Walimba, the head of the Widows Association, to see if the women would like loans to start businesses. And that's exactly what we did. So next slide, Carol. We went,
2008, yeah.
this is Byobo, Uganda. It is extremely rural, which is one of the reasons I always show the slide. This open area here, you will then can see the buildings that we ended up constructing. This is where we ended up constructing, and this is what the village basically looked like when we got there. Next slide, Carol. This is downtown Byobo, as you can see, a bustling metropolis. And these actually, this is what the street looked like in 2008 when we first started. Next slide. You can see how beautiful it is, if not rural. So June and her daughter Cindy and myself, my husband Malcolm, my 2 daughters Toria and Tana, we all went to Byobo, Uganda. And this is where it all started, under this tent made out of old school uniforms. We put together, while Olive Walimba organized 20 women who wanted loans to start businesses. And we went there to figure out how to do the loan issue, how to do the training, how to structure the program. Next slide. The women were so excited that their connection through Bradley Hills Church, through Edith and her family who still lived in Byobo, was turning out to be able to provide them this new initiative. And they welcomed us. They were really so happy that our community here at Bradley Hills was taking an interest, not just in telling them, oh, hey, a maize mill is a good idea, we've looked at your economy, but asking them, what is it that women in your village would want if we could provide any kind of resource for you? So they were really incredibly welcoming when we got there. Next slide.
And by the way, we have some of those famous people with us right now.
Those famous people set their clocks right. Interestingly enough, and a little sadly, when you go to a village, the village elders play and the local village officials play a huge role in whether or not a new initiative is going to be accepted. So as you saw, the women are singing and dancing and welcoming us. All the villagers are looking on in the back of the tent, and seated in the seats of honor are the local village officials and the elders, because they actually set the tone for whether or not a new initiative is going to be accepted. Village elders play a huge role in the acceptance of any kind of new initiative. And Edith's brother, Nelson, June's uncle, Nelson Gutakamafabi, was the senior village elder, and he really set the tone for welcoming the loan program to Bayoba. Next slide. And here we are. That happens to be Akazia, another village elder looking on. June, you'll see, is right there. And to Akazia's right in the blue is Olive Olimba, who's the head of the Widows Association, and she's now the local director for all WMI programs in Africa. And then there's Montana and 2 borrowers. So we had to make sure that we were introducing the loan program to the entire community. You may think, oh, it was only important for the 20 women who were getting loans. But when you work in a village environment, you have to be transparent, and you have to make sure that there's buy-in from the entire community, or your project's not going to succeed, because you're not going to be living there. You're not going to be on the ground 24/7. You know, maybe like I do, I go for 2 or 3 weeks to Uganda, and then a couple weeks in Kenya and Tanzania, but I'm not there every day. So it has to be something that's structured and that the people on the ground want, and that they want to supervise. Next slide. And there's that June Kayakobi doing an incredible job of
It's right here.
developing our relationship with the village women.
Exactly.
Through song, through role playing, through drama. It was a huge advantage to be able to start a project with a transatlantic connection. It was just huge. So we did go to the village and we did the training. We explained all of the documents and had a very solid foundation when we got started. Next slide. This is Olive Olimba. She understood everything that we were doing, going over all of the documents. And as you can see, that's a borrower signing her, her loan documents. Even though we were making $100 loans to 20 women, a total of $2,000, we started the program. We all agreed it had to be structured. It had to be reliable. It had to be consistent. It couldn't be, the rules were one way for 10 of the women and another way for another 10 of the women. We decided one of the most difficult things of living in a village is how inconsistent rules, regulations, your government is. It creates a lot of uncertainty. People never know what they're entitled to, what they have to do, what they have to comply with. So that may look like a lot of documents for a measly $100 loan, but starting with it structured from the beginning was a really big deal. And that's one of the beauties that we here, with our kind of training that we have, we're able to do this. I was a lawyer. I could write contracts all day long, which no one actually ever wants me to do. But being able to have the right kind of documents in place so people knew what to expect was a big deal. Next slide. So you saw that big open space and you saw the tent that we started under. As we started growing, we did 20 loans in January of 2008. And then we added another group 3 months later, and then 2 more groups, 6 months later. And then we kept adding groups of 20 every 3 months. We're on a quarter cycle. And by 2009, we had about 150 borrowers, and you couldn't be operating under a tent made out of old school clothes anymore. And now we had a track record because part of our structure was to do surveys for the women so that we could show what the impact of the program was. We did our first year analysis. The impact was huge. we went to a foundation and said, hey, look what we're doing. And they gave us a grant and we built our first building, Bradley Hills, again, instrumental, BCDA, the community development organization that Bradley Hills has helped fund for going on 20 years now, paid for half the building, and WMI paid for half the building, and we shared this building. So this was a huge leap forward because now we had a place to organize documents, do our trainings, and we could begin to actually become a conduit for other kinds of trainings, health screenings, village health teams, village water programs, because you have the place to operate from. Next slide.
Why is it not? Come on.
I love that building. It's so sad. Well, I'll tell you the story when you get
Yeah.
to the next building.
So I don't know why this is happening. Hold on just a minute. Okay. I don't know. There we go. Is that the next one?
Yeah. So just to show you the comparison, first we built this small building here, then we built, you'll see that's our 500-seat auditorium. And then we have a compound, we have a kitchen in the back and a storeroom in the back. And this, the building with the green roof was built in 2014. And now our beloved first office building has been condemned by the government because they're widening this road in front of our building. And originally we thought, oh my God, this is a huge tragedy. This is awful. And we were looking at the plans, and actually the road is not going to be where the building is. It's only going to be like up to where these signs are. And I said to the guys in the village, I'm like, why do you have to condemn our building? You're not even taking, the road's not going to be there. And they said, oh, well, they're going to rent this giant heavy earth moving equipment, and the people don't know really how to operate it. So they'll be swinging it around, and the vibrations, your building will be destroyed. You're thinking to yourself, is this real? And you're like, okay. One thing you learn is you have got to go with the customs, with the way things are done. And if they're telling me that's going to happen, and they're condemning it anyway, they're the government, they're going to do what they want. So this building eventually is not going to be there anymore. We had to do something. And what we did was, once again, we took all of our data, we went to a foundation, we said, look, this is what we've been doing. We have been providing so much programming. We're now up to, we've lent almost $13 million now, over 100,000 loans. We need a bigger building. And so, next slide, please. This is our new office building. It started, yeah, it's incredible. It's a 2-story building. You'll see, you can see our our 500-seat auditorium there with the green in the back, and that's our compound. It's right across this little driveway from our existing compound, which one would ask, why isn't it connected to our existing compound? Why is this little driveway? Well, because Reverend Kakoso's house is behind our building, and even though he is no longer with us, his son said, no, I'm not going to drive behind your building to get to my garage. I'm driving down the same driveway I've always driven down. And the family is a big family in the village, and that's the way it went down. So we were very lucky to get this piece of land. It belongs to the government. It took us 1.5 years to negotiate with the government to get this piece of land. It is so, the bureaucracy is just amazing, but you stay on it, and our people on the ground, Olive and her team, they did not let them down. And this is another instance of where you bring your learning and your training that you've had in the West. At one point, they were just asking us for an overwhelming amount to get this land, and we just said, no, we're walking away. We'll figure something else out. And it didn't take 24 hours for them to come back to us and apologize and say they were sorry and they were overreaching, and we reached a deal. So this new building is amazing for a number of reasons. One, we've gotten authorized to become agency bankers, which means We will have women that we've trained, all village women who have terminals, and they can take deposits and withdrawals for any bank in Uganda. It's all a universal terminal. And the second floor, we are going to start to use for to do training. It's going to be a trade school. They want to teach hair braiding, secretarial skills, carpentry, brick making, because so many of the youth are unemployed. And once again, an ancillary impact when you bring resources to a village. Next slide. So we started, Olive Walimba was our first employee. She was running when we had 20 loans, 40 loans, 60 loans. She was doing it all. And then she got one helper, and now this is our staff in Bayobo. All of these women work for the loan program. We, as you know, well, you may not know, WMI, I don't get paid, none of our board gets paid. WMI does not have any paid employees here in the United States. The only people who get paid are not employees, the guy who does our website and the woman who does our taxes and our audit. All of the programs, the operations, the bookkeeping, it's all done on the ground in the villages at our loan hubs. All of these women get stipends. And now we're paying their retirement, and we pay into a health fund for them. So another ancillary spin-off. You don't realize, you think you're giving loans to women, they're starting businesses. That's the end of it. What has happened here is we've developed enormous human resources in the villages where we have loan programs. Next slide. And this is what loan repayment day looks like now. This is in our big 500-seat building. On loan repayment day, every 2 weeks, the women come to the village, they repay their loans, they're in their groups of 20, everybody sees what's going on. Our coordinators are taking the money, marking them in their books, and then they stamp their passbooks. See our little logo on their pink passbooks? So we have branding for our banking for our banking documents. It's a very busy place on loan repayment days and training days. Next slide. This is our staff at work. They've all gotten computer training. They track everything on spreadsheets. We've had two guys in Uganda, 2 computer programmers have developed it's probably a pretty simple program for us, because as you can imagine, there's nearly 3,000 borrowers in this Bayobo loan hub alone. So they're tracking a lot of money, and they developed an automated process for us to reconcile our bank accounts, which has been great. Next slide. So now you see ladies come to WMI, they get their loans, they're in our loan program for 2 years. And then what we encourage them to do is, now you got to look at your business. Where are you going from here? You can get a jumbo loan from WMI. You can become self-financing, because do not forget, loans are expensive. They carry interest. They're not free. One of the biggest things we've done is transition women to the formal banking sector. These women are at Postbank in Mbale, Uganda, opening up their bank accounts. They never had bank accounts before. They're entering the regulated financial services system. And obviously, we're a small, tiny village level loan program. This is what we need to be, an on-ramp for women to enter the formal economy. Next slide. So none of this would have happened. I could have had, and our board could have had the best ideas in the world, but not a single solitary thing would have happened without these 2 ladies. Olive Walimba and Jackie Namani, who's our assistant local director. The minute we set foot in Bayobo, these ladies just were so determined and so committed that this loan program was going to work, and they were going to bring these resources, not just to Bayobo, but to all rural women they could reach and that they could serve from this loan hub. They have been stalwarts. They're just, you can't say enough about how committed they are to making this loan program a success. And one of the reasons is, I think, because they own it. You know, structurally, WMI actually enters a grant agreement with a local registered village-based women's association. And we started out, it was the Bull and Bully Widows Association, then it changed to the Bayobo Women's Association. And now they've actually gotten certified as an NGO in Uganda, and it's Shore Microfinance. But all of it is because they decided they were going to set the example. Two of our first borrowers, so they were 1/10 of the first 20 women. And we were so fortunate that Edith and June and Edith's brother Nelson had this relationship with Olive and certified her, picked her, endorsed her, recommended her, pick your word. And it was the best decision. So all kudos to these ladies and the team that you saw that they've put together. It's a team of a hugely committed, loyal group of women. Next slide. So there's Olive and Jackie, who you should have seen the way the bank officials treated them the first time we went to the bank in 2008, because we needed a bank account to deposit the loan repayments in and then to withdraw the money to reissue loans. They treated them like total second-class citizens. I can't even tell you. It was really discouraging. And now they are running the most I am sure they're running the largest and the most successful village level loan program for women in Uganda. And that is the head of microfinance for the entire bank coming up to Mbale to talk to them about, what our next program or project is. So now when they walk into that bank, it's Madam Olive, what are we doing today? Madam Jackie, how can we help you? Another ancillary impact. The women have changed the way institutional banks deal with them and view them. Next slide. So it's just to tell you, training, and then more training. We've had interns, fellows, high school volunteers, grad students. We have had hundreds of volunteers come to Bayobo to help train the women, help set up programs. And boy, this is Grace. She is basically the office manager. She picked up on tracking, on spreadsheets, incredible. So it's been a big deal to have the training, and by bringing hundreds of students and young people over there year after year since 2008, you've created a bond and a connection, and the village loves it when the interns come. Cindy managed our intern program in Bayobo this summer. She was there, so she got to see firsthand what the whole deal was like. And I won't say it's like Real Housewives of New Jersey, but there is some drama when you take college students who have never been anywhere in a developing world and put them here living in a guest house together. And with her cool, calm, collected, level-headed attitude, Cindy managed the whole situation. And it's important because they produce the fact books. They take all of the data survey, they concatenate it, and they produce the fact books that show the impact of the loan program. So it's a really important job. Next slide. So we don't only work in Uganda. This is in Tanzania. Every situation is different. Every country is different. Cindy went to Tanzania this summer for us to meet up with women in the loan program there. She was in Karatu, but these happen to be Maasai women that we work with up in the National Conservation Area, which is a highly regulated area. The government discriminates against Maasai people, women in particular. It's very difficult for them there because they're not allowed to grow anything that isn't an indigenous crop, and they're not allowed to have livestock. It's all crazy way of trying to get them off of the NCA so they can turn it into a tourist area. Nevertheless, we're there, we're working. The women are just have many similarities. Village women between these three countries do, but then obviously they also have their own different culture and their own different attitudes. So it's fascinating, just working with women in the context of the lives that they're living on the ground. Next slide. Yeah, we work in schoolrooms mostly in Tanzania, and they work on, our ladies in Uganda all get calculators. They're a little further advanced in the learning. Here we are teaching them all their basic financial literacy on slates. Next slide. So this is what happens when you get a loan. You get a stocked shop in a village where you can, give your customers what they want and meet their needs. These are just a couple slides of different businesses the women have. Next slide. Super. This woman works in Southwest Uganda. She's at our big loan hub down there in Busisa outside Mubende. She's a fashion designer. She creates her own clothing designs and then makes them. It's fabulous, isn't it?
Yes, it's gorgeous.
Incredible. Next slide. This is Sarah. She lives in Kenya up on the Laikipia Plateau. It's a big farming area. And one of the things we've seen with the loan program there is that women buy land. I mean, they do in Uganda too, but in Kenya, they're very aggressive about this, called the little shamba, and she grows, you can see the cabbages, carrots, and onions. Next slide. Who doesn't like a caterer? And especially if you're having a big wedding, you need a lot of rice. Next slide. And these are Maasai women in Kenya. They're selling maize. Next slide. This was at one of the health screenings we do at our building: HIV, AIDS, breast cancer, uterine cancer. And one of the things we've noticed about the loan program, this is a mother and a daughter. They're both in the loan program, and it does have generational impact. And we really feel like children who grow up in a house where they see the mother proactive and employed and running a business and having, being in charge of her whole little business empire, it sets a tone. It sets a whole different paradigm, especially for girl children. Next slide. And what we do find in the loan program is that husbands and wives work together. I can't even tell you how many businesses are really partnerships amongst everybody in the family. So we know we make loans to women, but we know we're lending to families, because the ability to get a loan is a big resource in a developing country. And we find in this eastern part of Uganda that the whole family has become involved in the business. Next slide. This is just a screening that we do at our building, where medical professionals in Mbale come in and they'll test women for AIDS, and then they'll do the cancer screenings. They've done eyeglass screenings, hearing screenings, diabetes, because high blood pressure is a problem. And we can do this because we have the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, and the human resources that can register, ask her name, give her her follow-up results. Next slide. These are community, we call them community engagements that we do because the loan program is generating income. And any income they have over expenses each year, they use for community projects. And this is supporting orphans in the community. Yeah, one of my favorites. This was my idea. Bayobo had a lot of trash on the roads, and I said, we need a Keep Bayobo Clean campaign. So we do. We employ 2 women, and they clean up every morning and every evening. And Bayobo is one of the cleanest villages you will find in Uganda. This is every year we have a graduation for the women just to honor them. It's really a community celebration for how well they've done. And Olive instituted the brass band comes and we march under the really hot sun, hence the hat I have on. She likes to make it miles. I'm always like, why don't we just go to the trading center and back? But everybody loves it when we're having our community celebration. As you can see, people come out, the marching, the singing. It's just really a joyous occasion. Next slide. That's the end. That's just to show you that it's a team effort. None of this would happen. Everybody's a link in the chain. There's no leader here. Everybody is a link in the chain, and that's why the loan program works. And it all started at Bradley Hills. Thank you. That's the end.
Thank you. Well, I know a lot of folks may have questions, but we have three important people with us. And I'm wondering if they want to, do you all want to add anything just right away? You can always be resources for questions, but this wouldn't have happened without all of you for sure. So
Well,
here.
hi, Robyn.
Hey, how are you guys?
Yeah. I just want to say that, yes, the program is going really great. I was there this summer and everyone is anxiously waiting for Robyn in January. I was like, oh, Robyn, you have your hands full. It feels like everybody wants a piece of you in the village. And the program is going very well. What I would be proud to say is that if we left Buyobo now, it would just go on without us. They don't need us. Like, we're not a necessity anymore. It's self-financing.
Sustainable.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's sustainable now. They only need Robyn's legal advice all the time.
Yeah, that would be also a question.
But other than that, I think it's self-sustaining. I don't know if Cindy wants to add anything.
Yeah. So yes, Cindy, yeah.
Yeah, I was there this summer for.
It's the camera there that they can't see it.
Oh, that's-
Yeah, but if.
Yeah.
Oh,
Could she see it?
No, yeah, I mean, I
Did
can
Robyn
put it on to gallery view.
We can see her.
We can see you, Carol.
Yeah.
See her? Okay,
Great.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
Well, yeah, I just want to say I was there this summer. Like Robyn said, I was leading the internship there with me and two other college interns that were there. Yeah, we all had a really good time. It was fun showing them around, meeting all of my families around there and everything. I thought it was most interesting to see how much it changed since I've been going there since they've been going in 2008 when I was really little. And so it's just cool to see how much it changed over time, especially the new building. And yeah, it's great to be involved in it.
Thank you. Questions, questions either in the chat or, yeah, Bob, yeah. Bob has a. He's here.
Hey, Robyn, what a terrific presentation.
Oh, hey, Bob.
Yeah, it's so great to see you and.
You too.
It's amazing what you've done with the program. I'm just curious as to what now is the average size of the loan, how you come to that, what's the optimal size and the terms, is it, I think you said they paid back over 2 years and.
Well, that's a really good question. And even though we're a shockingly small village level loan program, we have products. And the first loan a woman gets, it basically goes 100, 100, 250, 250. Then they actually repay their loan after 6 months. So you're getting 4 loans in a 2-year period. Now, after 2 years, you have a track record. Hopefully your business is generating profits. And now you can decide, you can go to a larger loan with WMI. We now have this is such a brilliant name. We call them jumbo loans. They're $500. And if your business can qualify, you can go up to that. We have alumni loans for women who have gone through the loan program, but they don't want to go to a bank loan and they just want to stay at the same $250 level. There is no optimum size for a loan because we're a tiny loan program. Everybody has to sort of be on the same schedule for the first 2 years. Otherwise, the payments are going to be way too confusing. We'll never be able to track it. So as your business grows, that's why we've tried to introduce these new products to try and continue to meet the women's needs. We're a bottom of the pyramid loan program. So if you start to need $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, it's time for you to go to the bank. And that's how we introduce you to the bank. Of course, Postbank Uganda knows Olive and our loan program intimately. So the women have an entree into segueing into the formal banking sector. What we raise money now for is the capital construction projects. You saw one building. We've built 15 buildings in the various loan hubs we have. I know way more about how much water should be in concrete than I ever wanted to. It's the way it is. You have to have physical infrastructure. And what we try to do in each of these loan hubs is meet the needs of the local economy and the women in the local economy. So we probably never go, occasionally we'll give $1,000 loans just because it's a particular situation, great track record, you can see the need. But when you get to needing that much, you got to go to the bank.
Any other questions right now?
She told us
I
the
will-
default rate.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just
Pat,
asked it, yes. My question only is, what is the default rate? Obviously, everyone is not successful. What is the percentage of people who are unable to pay back their loans?
Our repayment rate's 98%.
Okay.
And mostly you don't repay because you're incapacitated or no longer amongst the living.
Okay.
One of the things we use is social capital. So when you come to the loan program, you do not have to have a deposit. You do not have to pledge money. You do not have to pledge physical collateral. What you are in is a group of 20 women, and those 20 women pledge that if someone does not make their loan payment, the other 19 women will.
Perfect.
And I have been on loan top up collection, whatever you want to call it, with women in a loan group whose one of their members hasn't paid. They will go to that member's house. They will sit in her living room, and every time she gives about why she hasn't paid, they will say, I have a sick child too. I have a sick mother-in-law. I have a dead cousin. You name it. There's someone else in the group in the same situation who's actually repaid her loan. So we do not intervene. We leave it to the loan groups, and they use their social capital, and they do what they think is appropriate in their culture, and that's why there's such a high repayment rate.
Wow.
I guess I would ask, since this is about faith and hope, and I mean, your selflessness, as well as those of quite a few others there in this room and watching, but this was huge. I mean,
Yes.
you left your job, and your whole family is. Can you share a little bit about your faith journey? And
Yeah, well, let's not get too invested in my sainthood, because when I was a telecommunications lawyer, I had every advantage in the world, although I did go to night school and paid for myself to go to law school. Someone dumped an industry at my feet that nobody understood what was going to happen with the cellular telephone industry. So I was hugely lucky to be a part of that. And I quit when I sold the cellular system that I bought into at 49 years old. I said, I'm done with this. I don't want to be doing this. This is like making, no offense to anybody, a lot of rich, mostly Caucasian males, way richer. That industry was so dominated by men. And when I left, I said, we just need to do something for other people out there who just don't have a chance, because women just don't have as many opportunities, especially in developing countries. So that was lucky for me that I had that situation to be in a position to do this. And then I was trained as a lawyer, so I could structure something. The second part of it, oh man, I am the one who should be thanking everybody. To be able to go into an entirely different culture in an entirely different country on a village level where you see everything, you see household dynamics, you see the dynamics that are going on in a family between a husband and wife, what a local economy is, what it means if you have an education or don't, how bad the school is, what it means if you send your kid to a better school, what it's like not to have enough nutrition. And people welcomed us into their homes, into their lives. They told us what their problems were and allowed us to suggest solutions just because we had more resources, and then develop how to deploy the resources. I'm telling you, it's a gift. It's like I have a whole nother, maybe I'm gonna retire in Biobo. Maybe I'm gonna live in Edith's house with her. It's just a very welcoming culture, and to be able to have the gift of being integrated and involved in something. Like, people actually care what I say when I go there. They show me a problem, like, oh, you could try this, you could try this. It's remarkable. It's just remarkable.
Well,
And she's happy.
I just saw Bonnie Holcomb, who set the way for you, and she's been there. Bonnie, you want to say anything? Oh, okay, all right, yeah, but anyway, we're amongst, well, we're gonna hear more stories next week from folks in Bradley Hills, but, and I know Joy came, what was you and Joy that were there?
2003.
2000.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me
preceded
just thank you, Carol, because I have to go.
Oh,
It was a pleasure. If anyone wants more information, WMIonline.org is our website. Carol knows how to get in touch with us. June, Edith. Always happy to chat, answer questions, input. It's super. It's just a super community. So thank you for giving me a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we can't thank you enough, but the folks stick around because we still have.
Yeah, you have 3 experts. I'm just an
I
interloper.
will be talking about what's tomorrow.
Yeah, you talk to those ladies.
And next week, but I still
right.
think we have some time to talk some
Bye,
more.
All
Robyn.
right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. But yeah, stick around. We've got any other questions that,
I just want, you can get on the website, WMI.org. You can make a donation there. They have a fascinating quarterly or 3 times a year quarterly newsletter where you can read stories of what's going on and personal stories of these women.
Yes, they're just,
It's an amazing, it is truly an amazing
the way
program.
their lives have changed. And Clint, why don't you talk a little bit about your project? And there's a connection to what you're doing in Kenya and with Robyn. I heard you all talking before the presentation started.
Carl Kuntz and I have been installing solar powered lighting, which turns out to be very cost effective thanks to LED light sources. So we go in, usually hospitals, schools, and are branching out now to some other things. Put up solar panels. We have a good installer in Uganda who goes other places in Africa for us, sub-Saharan Africa. And we put in solar arrays, LED lighting. In the Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, a small village called Rive Kandale. We laughingly say it's 18 hours and 2 flat tires east of Kinshasa. Those 2 flat tires seems to be about the average. Buy what we can locally and truck it in. But there we have added to the lighting in the hospital and in the schools and in the dormitories, because a lot of people outside of the village come there for schooling. We've added 2 mechanical grinders. We found that the women and older children who should have been in school were spending about 3 hours a day pounding maize or millet to produce enough flour just for their family for that day. And so we put in 2 mechanical grinders. They're 2 horsepower electric each. Came from Burkina Faso, which is a story in and of itself. We trained operators. I say we, the people that we work with, they're trained operators. We've arranged for them to understand what they need to do to maintain it. And we've also spent a lot of time convincing them that there are some things they shouldn't do and to recognize those things and to call for help. So we find some interesting benefits from these grinders. One is that the women, some of them now have free time to do sewing. So someone produced 24 sewing machines. One of the foundations donated 24 sewing machines, but they tended not to be used because everybody was grinding grain and doing other things. So we find now that they have freed up time, what they end up doing is sewing school uniforms, some of which they use and the remainder they sell in the market. So that's a source of income they didn't have before. A bizarre return, which we never would have predicted. Once a year, they go down a couple of 100 miles to the east and collect caterpillars as a source of protein. So they eat them alive, they eat them in fried in oil, and they eat them dried. But more to the point, they really go there to collect enough so they can sell them in the marketplace and again bring in some revenue. They provisioned for the journey in the days before the grinders with flour that they had produced. The flour that they produced manually involved huge mortar and pedestals, something like a flour pot that was maybe that diameter, stood about that high off the ground. The pedestal was about the size of a fence post, lifted up, let it drop. Trouble is the grain will spray out of the mortar. So they put water in the mortar, and that worked to keep the grain in there, but it also guaranteed that after 2 or 3 days, the flour would spoil. So they would provision for the trip, and then after 3 or 4 days, any flour that they hadn't used would spoil. So they had to spend time, instead of collecting caterpillars, collecting food. And we found that with the flour from the grinders, it's very dry. And so it can stay usable for many days. And it has increased the amount of time that they now spend collecting caterpillars, increased the caterpillar take, and increase the revenue selling it in the marketplace. So Robyn's right, you provide people with capital, you provide people with energy, and all sorts of interesting payoffs occur that you never would have predicted to begin with. Most recently, the village, Carl and I didn't have anything to do with this, put in a deep well. It's a long story about how they got the water before the well, but they had to walk about 2 kilometers down a steep grade, about 100 meters, carrying 5-gallon containers, and then march back up. To come up. Water weighs about 8 pounds a gallon, so those were pretty hefty loads. And they were spending a lot of time doing that, and didn't, of course, get much water to do anything else with other than for personal consumption. With the well, they hit water at 100 meters. We paid for them to rent a gasoline-driven pump. They had enough money for the well, but not anything for the pump. And I tried to get them to use drip irrigation as a way of producing food during the dry season. It's like a desert. It's like a clay tennis court across the village during the dry season. Nothing grows there. So they got some garden hose from Kinshasa, punched holes in it with some nails, created a version of drip irrigation. They irrigated, I think, about 3 acres. And it's absolutely amazing. Look at the photographs of all this green vegetation in the middle of the dry season. So some of the enterprising women decided they would open a fast food restaurant using these vegetables. And so for the first time, they not only had food, fresh vegetables during the dry season, but they were able to make some money out of it. So the question is, what do we do now? We're looking at a deep well pump. Takes a lot of solar panels, probably talking something on the order of 5 kilowatts. And they're running out of roof space. I mean, that seems like a trivial thing, but we're gonna have to construct a platform to elevate these panels off the ground. And the platform has to provide access to the panels so you can keep them free of dust. So turns out to be more of a project than just buying a pump and some solar panels. You gotta provide some infrastructure to go along with it. So that's probably the next thing.
And what is the relationship? How, I mean, we have our folks here. What's the relationship?
The
in your village?
relationship is primarily through a resident of Bethesda who had been born in the village named Colette Ram. Carl had been introduced to her maybe by Robyn. I'm not sure of the initial connection, but she goes there. She's there right now and provides our interface with the village. But all the decisions about what to do are made by mostly the women. You wonder about the role of the men. It turns out a lot of them are in Kinshasa or some of the larger regional centers. There's one called Pickwick that's about 25 kilometers away. And so the women end up with bearing the burden of keeping the village going and provisioning the children. So our connection is primarily via Colette.
Now, what's your umbrella organization called that's doing this?
Well, we give the money to
Yeah, that's what I
something
got,
called
yeah.
the Reeve Condale Foundation. And
I would love to get some of this information.
we give it with very explicit instructions about how we want it
Yeah.
used. So and then we get feedback. Phillips donated a ground station, so we're hopefully going to get some Zoom time with them, but that's difficult to arrange on the other end.
Yeah, Robyn's latest newsletter had a quote about the power of microfinance from Melinda Gates. And so as we were preparing for this, I went, well, I bet Melinda Gates is interested in what you're doing. She said, oh yeah, and we don't want to have anything to do with it because we'll have to do what they tell us to do. And we have the relationships and they're working very well. I do think there were lots of problems from time to time with the Uganda government. You probably could tell us lots of stories about it.
Well, it's easier to receive the donation and do what you think is right with it, rather than be told, I want you to build roads with this, or I want you to do this.
So is
So that's the preference, and we've also benefited from the solar panel.
Are you all
Carl, yes.
are you connected to the grid or not?
No, through Carl, Carl.
I know
He went to our village and
but it needs, there is no grid connection. It's solar panels.
Yes, just solar panels.
Yeah, I had occasion some years ago to spend an afternoon with a very interesting man named Richard Smalley. He was professor at Rice University. Won the Nobel in chemistry in 1996 for discovering carbon-60, aka Buckminster fullerene. And he didn't want to talk about that. He wanted to talk about what he considered to be the 10 big problems. And his first big problem was energy, and the next was water, then food, then the environment, and then poverty. And he concluded his talk by saying, if you solve the first problem, then the others will go away. And I am convinced that is the case.
I'm sorry, but
I wanted to do a question about having been involved with the program a while back. I'm very interested in how it has expanded, because it has expanded a lot, but where else is it moving now? So we have an idea when new hubs are being developed and how they are.
Initially, they were expanding within Buyobo and going to the adjacent villages that are next to it. So it got so big that so many different areas were asking, they were hearing about the program and coming and asking to join the program. So we always go there and survey the area to see if how close it is to the post bank, the nearest post bank office, because that's a problem because they have to take the money to the bank all the time.
So you do the preliminary work with them to
Yes.
see if it can happen.
Yes,
I was thinking for Bradley Hills, as we think about ways to support them.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're moving into a place where it hasn't been before, and that we can help that new group set up is remarkable. If that's one way of talking about the program too.
And if you do, well, go to WMIonline.org. Robyn does, their newsletters have that information included on a regular basis. I would, definitely.
yeah, the newsletters are very helpful, and also the fact books that the interns do that Cindy has been doing for the last few years. They're very helpful because they give you the data of how many loans are paid back and the default rates and what most of the women are using for the money that they're making, and all those little stories. And it involves so many interns from so many universities, different universities every year. So that's it brings so many people with different ideas. Every year you get new recommendations. Maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. So if you look at the fact book, it's on the website as well. You see so many, for instance, everybody will say, I want a cement floor. And you'd be like, oh, I thought you wanted maybe lighting or whatever. Like, no, I want a cement floor. And so you get all these ideas of, you don't tell them what you want them to have, but
they have and you listen.
Receive input from.
But I remember with Angel Gift Tree, it was really important to be tangible about what this year's donation might be to which group, not just this huge umbrella, and it just strikes me that the way they're moving, you move to new groups and have a new center is as a way of describing it for Bradley Hills.
Thank you. I warned you all that you might be happy at the end of this presentation, and we might have something to celebrate and to really support and people that we can hug and be close to and just rejoice in their lives. I just thank you so much. I did want to announce while we have time, that tomorrow night there's a real opportunity to learn more about our spiritual life and development and learn more about the practice of the labyrinth. This is going to be on Zoom at 7 o'clock. It's in your newsletter, the Zoom link, and there's an announcement in the bulletin as well. But we have an expert, Charles Bernstein, whom apparently is just wonderful, and another way to begin your holiday season with the spiritual celebration. And then we have a lot to celebrate next week, because we're going to be looking at the wonderful effects of work that we do at Bradley Hills, mission projects that are ongoing, successful, growing, and very healthy. We'll be hearing from Brigitta and Dave Brigette. We're going to learn about what we have been doing or doing with refugee projects. We're going to learn from Joan Burns, Jim Kettler, Elaine Henderson, and Jennifer Klein about, in addition to the refugees, talking about our relationship with Faith Presbyterian and Anacostia, with Smart Sacks, and providing dinners at Becky's house. So join us again next week. Please come in, be with us, come in either online or with us. And thank you for your patience as we navigate, but we're still strong together as a Bradley Hills community. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Yeah. if you all could help with anybody that feels up to it, help with chairs because of smart sacks coming in, that would be.
Linda, I just wanted to show you two things. I just sent a picture of you and the daughter. This is the kids, so big. Anyway, this is their, the office is there. It's a major room. There comes the office.
No, that's okay.
And I just sent them a picture.